Welcome to the Tamiki Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Jeffs. Our guest today is a true global ergonomist. She's a senior researcher at the European Trade Union Institute. Her work focuses on ergonomics, biomechanics, and application of exoskeletons to improve occupational health and safety. She's worked here at NIOSH in the US. There's a lot to talk about. She's led projects in ergonomic surveillance, next generation assessment tools, and the evaluation of exoskeletons in manufacturing, in healthcare and retail, and much more. Her research also explored the relationship between psychosocial stressors and musculoskeletal disorders. Yes, she holds a PhD in industrial and systems engineering with a specialization in occupational injury prevention from Auburn University, where she also earned a master's degree in occupational safety and ergonomics. She completed her undergraduate studies in industrial engineering and management at Atalim University in Turkey, where she conducted advanced MRI research in ergonomic modeling, and where she organized a global safety workshop to promote collaboration between Turkish and American professionals. It's my pleasure to introduce to the Tamiki Ergonomics podcast, Dr. Menekse Barim. Dr. Barim, welcome. May I call you Menekse?
Sure, of course. Yes.
Oh, welcome. It was so fun talking to you before we started recording. I cannot wait to get into your background. Your leadership is something I can't wait to share with our listeners. So let's start back at the beginning. What were some of your earlier influences from your youth in Turkey that first sparked your interest in ergonomics and workplace safety? And how did those moments guide you toward advanced studies at Auburn University?
Thank you so much for the great introduction, and I really appreciate the invitation, and I'm really, really excited to be here. I mean, actually, when I was growing up in Turkey, occupational safety and ergonomics were not widely recognized at the time. And then, of course, I was studying in industrial engineering, and I did a double major in management. At the time, I was still discovering what to do next, and I knew that I want to go on in academia, like to do research, but I didn't actually know what to focus on back then. And then I just got into Auburn University to do my master's, and I know that I wanted to do my PhD. And then during my master's, I was, of course, taking so many classes, occupational safety and ergonomics classes, lean manufacturing, automotive, optimization, all those kind of classes. But from all those classes, occupational safety and ergonomics is just kind of like, there was a spark. And I was like, oh my God, this is where I really want to study more. Because even when I was growing up personally, I always had a strong desire to serve the public and do meaningful work that impacts people's lives. And then when I realized with ergonomics, like occupational safety and ergonomics, that I could actually directly improve workers' well-being, that inspired me to pursue that field. And then I did my PhD in that field.
Oh, that's great. And it's a storied institution at Auburn as far as the industrial ergonomics and industrial safety side. It's very well known and very well respected. You know, looking back at that academic journey, including that master's and PhD at Auburn, what challenges in ergonomics paved the way for your work into academia and your industry roles later on at like Oregon State University? Can you share that kind of transition?
The thing is, like, I don't know if you're familiar with, in 2014, there was a mine explosion happened in Türkiye, and then more than 300 people actually killed in that explosion. And then it happened during my PhD time. And it's kind of like, I won't say like motivated, but it just gives me an idea like I need to do something to increase awareness, like really nationwide, internationally, how much I could do. And then after that happened, I organized an international workshop in Izmir, Turkey. And I invited all of my occupational safety and health or faculty members from Auburn. They all came to Turkey, and then we did a free workshop, international free workshop, So occupational safety and health professionals, they were located in Turkey. And then they all came. I think it was close to 300 people attended to our workshop. And then we shared practical information, some standards that were like based in the United States. Of course, NIOSH, OSHA, what we do, what we follow. We just wanted to increase awareness and what to do. And these are the things that always motivated me to do more and do an impactful work. And that actually helped me to transition to become a research fellow at NIOSH, because I knew that I could actually serve the public, and the research that I would work on that actually would have an impactful meaning to the public. That's how I transitioned from my PhD, then being a research fellow at NIOSH.
It sounds like that event you described hit you somewhere deep inside. Is that safe to say?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what motivates us, isn't it?
Yes.
That's when we put the intellectual side into high gear and put it to the betterment of mankind, I might say. How did your early postdoctoral work or initial consulting gigs expose you to real-world environmental health and safety in manufacturing and logistics? What was that like?
I didn't do exactly like a postdoc, but during my PhD time, we did interdisciplinary projects with industry. And then during that time, I did different projects. And one of the project was really, really interested. We were at a factory. It's kind of like a bakery factory type, and they were making like chips. And then at the time, they were really complaining about the heat stress. And then as a student, we actually bring the same working conditions to our kinesiology lab, to the environmental chamber. I don't know if you're familiar with the environmental chamber, but we organized some pilot testing in the environmental chamber where we recruit some subjects into the chamber. And then we did pre and post infrared camera images of the body. And then we tested the impact or the use of the cooling vest. And some of the actually cooling vest factors, they were really, really helpful to us. They sent us their prototypes and things that led us to try it out. And then as a student, of course, that was a great study for us because we were in the kinesiology lab doing a study that actually bring out something similar to working environment into lab and doing this data collection that would actually give feedback to the company. It was really rewarding. And other than that, we did another project to a different company to design a kind of assembly line process. We designed a workstation to make it proper for the person who was complaining about low back pain. But those kind of things were just kind of, I think, two of the ones that I did interdisciplinary projects with the companies that are really, really meaningful for me.
Oh, as we spoke beforehand, that's close to my heart. I also worked in an area, and I mentioned that to you, at a big paper plant in North Florida, not far from where sports hydration became famous in the 60s. And the heat index was invented in the 70s. So the heat was really managing that was really something. It sounds like we both overlap there as well, where you realize we have an aging workforce and we also have a rising climate, both indoor and outdoor. And how do we get people to work within those roles and do so safely? I love that background, so it's very close to my heart. In your role as a senior ergonomist when you were at Amazon, what projects involved AI or data analytics? And you were leading them. What might astonish your past self from what you learned in, nowadays versus what you learned in grad school?
Just to kind of correct, I never worked at Amazon.
Oh, I'm sorry. Forgive me. My research led me astray. Forgive me.
No problem. I worked at NIOSH for 7 years before my recent role, but that was I was a research fellow and a senior research fellow at NIOSH with the human factors and ergonomics team. And then where we led projects on, of course, surveillance data, variable sensors, computer vision, and exoskeletons. And of course, like overall, we were really, really interested in the impact of emerging technologies to reduce musculoskeletal disorders. That's how we were doing so many projects with different aspects of it.
Wow. Thank you for correcting me there. And again, I should have run that by you beforehand, but I thank you for explaining. How has your career evolved in unexpected ways? And what does day-to-day aspects of your work today surprise or would surprise the younger you, like just starting out in the field? Can you share any lessons from the field, so to speak?
Sure. I mean, of course, I was a PhD student before, and then right after graduating, I started as a research fellow at NIOSH. It was an actually amazing experience because I was learning so many things because it was all PhD people, and we're all sharing something and all different expertise. It was really, really impressive. And then with my team, there were already some projects they were doing, and then I got involved with the projects. Some of them were lab oriented, some of them are like working in field and doing field data collection. And that's why it was really, really rewarding experience for me to learn both lab versus field data collection. As a researcher, it's really, really rewarding.
It is.
Yeah.
And I like how when we discussed before we went on about these transitions, about this path that we follow, and how we learn new things along the way that we would look back and go, wow, I didn't expect that. But it's that not unexpected change that's so interesting and keeps us engaged in our work. Given your accomplishments in publishing and society leadership. This is what I liked about reading about your career. Your involvement in human factors and ergonomics society and the global work we talked about earlier. How do you think that your integration of tech in EHS reflects a change from the earlier research you did in your career to where we are today?
Yeah, of course, like even if like recent days, technology is evolving so fast. I mean, even if like during my like I don't know like how many years of career, which I'm still considering myself new, but still I'm like a senior ergonomist. But during my PhD, we were always talking about the traditional ergonomic assessment tools, right? Like we can start from there.
Right.
And then, of course, the most validated and the used one is the revised NIOSH lifting equation. And then when I first started at NIOSH, we were just like discovering about the wearable technology and also like how we can automatically detect horizontal distance, vertical height, which were the main risk factors when you think about the revised night shifting equation without interrupting workers in the work environment. Because when you're thinking about traditional ergonomic assessment tools, all the ergonomists would be familiar with that. You're in the field with your pen and pencil, with your papers, and then you're taking measurements and then making worker to just stop at the certain points to make sure that you're just like taking right measurements to be able to identify the risk factors, right? With these technologies, actually, we could be able to monitor their postures. We can get real-time data monitoring, and then we can analyze that. And as an ergonomist is really, really promising. And we had a chance to do a study, okay, it was like lab oriented, to see if we can be able to automatically detect these lifting risk factors with the wearable sensors. And then we worked with few academic people to develop some machine learning algorithms for us. And then another academic faculty with developing computer vision technology. And then as the third output was kind of like a manually detecting. And then we were testing or like kind of verifying which one was like working well. And then they were all very promising with the high like accuracy levels. And we were really, really happy with the result. It was really, really nice to just to see that change and actually imply that change into what we were doing before.
That is fascinating. It's thrilling to hear about these emerging trends. And I'd like to ask you to use your vision for the future and some emerging trends in ergonomics, like wearable tech and predictive analytics. Do you see changing workplace safety? Where do you see it going in the next 10 years? If you had a crystal ball, as they say, what do you imagine coming our way?
It's really, really hard to guess because we still need more data and then need more findings because it's still a new technology and we
Right.
still are not sure. And then I know it's evolving. That's the thing. And then right now with these new technologies, we can be able to get all the postural data within a second. I mean, it's like for just like the accuracy and all the things about these new technologies. Of course, we need some time about the adjusting and also adaptability of these technologies. But I see that we will definitely see them more in the future, especially in industries. Yeah.
It's humbling, isn't it? It's,
Mhm.
as they say, the only thing changing faster than change is the rate of change.
Yeah.
So we're on this curve, this upward curve, but I appreciate your willingness to be humble and go, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
It revealing itself every moment of every
Mhm.
day now. It's not even every day. It's like, hey,
Mhm.
what's going on this afternoon?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you see advancements in automation and machine learning when it
Mhm.
helps with reducing injury rates in the global supply chain? That's a big deal nowadays.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Any thoughts on that?
For those, I never had a chance to do any like a field study. That's as a researcher without seeing the results. It's really, really hard to say something, but hopefully we will see more results and then see the establishments of these new technologies in the, especially machine learning in the field. That's what I could say. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really going to be something. As you mentioned earlier, and you again, the overlap thrills me. You mentioned your background in and also learning about lean, continuous
Hmm.
improvement,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
Toyota production system.
Yeah.
I consider myself a lean geek. So we always look at this sort of thing, and when we talk about the global supply chain, we look at one piece flow, and
Hmm.
how do we make things move as quickly and efficiently as possible. Well, we learned now that we live in a world of things like lockdowns that there's a vulnerability there. So we have to
Hmm. Hmm.
consider that as well, don't we?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But like I couldn't talk about like all the machinery, but I can definitely talk about exoskeletons because I before I came to E2I actually did a study in field with the exoskeletons. I was really, really interested in passive low back exoskeletons, and I realized the adoption and implementation of exoskeletons. I think it's also same for any kind of technology. It's really starting with the workers. Involvement, because when you involve workers, because they are the one who does the work, and
Right.
then we need to always consult with them and then see what their needs are. Is this something that they can actually try it on, because they're always afraid of losing their jobs, and then like it's also the same with the real-time monitoring and everything, because they want to make sure that it won't affect the productivity or the way they work. Those kind of things is like I always foresee that we need just to do like start with really from the bottom, and then like talk with the employees and then consult with them to see like what is needed, what can we do to help them, like to let them and actually want them to see that we are there for them, to just help them to improve their health.
Yes, exactly. I used to do physical demand analysis and post-offer employment testing and fit for duty testing and return to work testing. And as we both know, the challenges come into the different body types. You have endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph. And when you start getting wearables into that
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
equation, that affects everything as well. Then when you take all that and put it into an environment that might be, like we were saying earlier, hotter or more humid,
Mhm.
then you have to think about the donning and doffing
Oh
of
yeah.
different things. And it spirals a little, doesn't it?
No, definitely, because we did a study. It was actually usability aspect of exoskeletons, and that was the main concern. Even if the environment was cold environment, and it was a freezing, but the workers were complaining about the heat issue because it was a kind of like another layer for them, and they normally, because it was a packaging plant, because they normally work so hard, and then they don't want to have the extra layer.
Yeah.
It's really really interesting to find out these things.
Yeah, it's always the bio and the biopsychosocial that
Yeah,
throws a wrench or a
exactly.
wrinkle in things, and we start to wonder, okay, well, what's this going to be like in terms of all these factors? Let me ask you, what advice would you give to new ergonomists about
Mhm.
preparing for their future, and what role do you see interdisciplinary collaboration playing in the fields of evolution and our field's evolution, I should say?
Yeah, it's actually like for a new ergonomist, I think I can definitely tell them to be like open-minded and not like go there. Like it's really really important to just to test everything, and it's because it was really hard for some of the occupational health and safety ergonomists to just like introduce some of the new technologies. Like we shouldn't like scared of trying out new things because we never know what actually that would bring out. That's why
Right.
it can be, of course, everything comes with some risk, but they also comes with some benefits too. So I would definitely, I don't know, tell them to just kind of be open-minded with the new technologies and to try them out before saying no.
That's why I was so thrilled to speak with you. Again, reading into your background, I remember a day not too many decades ago when there was a little bit of turf war going on in the ergonomics field and everybody trying to carve out their little section. But it's that interdisciplinary collaboration
Mhm,
that I saw in your background, that open mind of being able to say, hey, maybe we can learn something from the physical therapist. Maybe we
mhm,
can learn something from the athletic trainers.
mhm.
Maybe we can learn something from the occupational therapist. And that Venn diagram, that spirit of working together is where I think a lot of our future holds. How do you feel about that?
I totally agree. I always love the interdisciplinary aspects of things because one person cannot be able to do everything. That's why we need all the expertise that we can actually gather. That's why interdisciplinary teamwork and all the things to bringing out together, that will be the future of work.
I couldn't have said it better. Thank you. And again,
Yeah.
that's why I say it in the highest praise. I think you're the future. You're the true global ergonomist, and I use that term as a double entendre, meaning, of course, geographical, but also in terms of holistic. That we have to approach things, realize that we have a world that is factors are combinatorial, they're integrated, and that's where emergent properties come from. Given these shifts in things like remote work,
Mhm.
climate hazards, what predictions do you have for how our standards should evolve right along with them and create more equitable and sustainable workplaces
Mhm.
worldwide? Any thoughts on
Yeah.
that?
No, I totally agree because after pandemic happened, remote work and teleworking become a thing, and then we realized that because the productivity, they were always questioning about the productivity, but then they realized actually working from home doesn't change that because people are the same people who are working. The environment is actually different. That's why remote work, teleworking, I think these are the things that like we need to just dig into more, but I think work life and the flexibility and the balance is really, really important when it comes to, we were talking about the psychosocial stress factors, right? Because I was telling you, I always think about the musculoskeletal disorders is a multifactorial nature of it. And then it was the combination of physical factors and personal factors and psychosocial factors. And so we really have to take into those into consideration while we're making like standards and policies, all kind of things. Yeah, that's what I believe.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's refreshing. And I'm so thrilled to see us emerge into this understanding and realizing we all have a lot to bring to the table. Humans are complex organisms.
Mhm.
I'm sorry they are.
Yeah, no,
And so are work environments. It's that difference between in vitro study and in vivo practice. And
mhm.
we see, okay, well, this makes sense when we control all the variables. Now let's put it out in the real world where we don't control all the variables and see what happens. And
Yeah.
just
I
reading about, go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, that's the reason I'm so excited that you mentioned I was in the United States. I did my master's PhD and then I worked at NIOSH for 7 years. I was actually in the United States since 2011. And then I recently moved to Brussels, and because I got a new position as a senior researcher at European Trade Union Institute. And who's not familiar with the E2I is actually the research and training arm of the European Trade Union Confederation. And I'm actually a part of an interdisciplinary team, what you actually mentioned before. And we're dedicated to conducting independent research to offer policy recommendations and provide training to support trade unions in addressing emerging workplace challenges. And one of the key aspects in our policy work is coordinating the workers' interest group in the advisory committee for safety and health at work. And this actually tripartite body plays a vital role in supporting the European Commission to assist in the preparation and evaluation of the legislation in field of occupational safety and health. And being an ergonomist and being able to, I don't know, like inspired or kind of like do something for the policy and the legislation implementation or play a role is actually really, really rewarding for me for my next chapter.
Isn't it thrilling? I mean, don't you
Yeah.
find this is a great line of work to be in? And you get to do something positive in the world and also work upstream where you
Hmm.
can prevent and protect more than you could ever respond and try to put the I always describe here in the US our healthcare as Humpty Dumpty healthcare, all the king's horses, all the king's men trying to put people back together again. It's a lousy healthcare model because it's a lousy business model. We wait for things to break before we try to fix them. Throwing good money after bad has never been
Hmm.
a winning business
Oh,
proposition.
yeah, I
So
totally agree.
that's two reasons right there, the financial and the life impacts are reason enough that we should be focusing our efforts upstream. And
Hmm.
seeing someone like you who has this open mind, who has this collaborative interdisciplinary mind, is something that gives people like me real hope for the future. I'm thrilled about where you're going to lead this field. And I hope this is the first of maybe some future talks. We'd love to have you come back and learn more.
Sure, yeah. But before we end, do you mind if I show something?
Sure, by
So
all
because
means.
I just wanted to, because I bring it, I was keeps telling about I love bringing awareness, increase awareness of the things that are going on. I don't know
Mhm.
if it's the United States because I didn't know before I actually joined E2I. E2I, like our team, actually publish twice a year. It's a health and safety magazine, and it is
Beautiful.
actually available online. And the one team was artificial intelligence, the other team was actually healthy teachers in better schools. And right now we're in the process of working on the issue for gender in occupational safety and health. I mean,
Yeah.
these are the things that I'm really, really looking forward to be involved with and also share with everyone.
I love it. And, that's something we all benefit from. Someone who used to work loading and unloading semis in a hot environment in North Florida. And I was there when the transition started to go towards hiring more women into this role. Well, we all benefited from it because then we realized, okay, they're not as muscular as us.
Hmm.
And what happened is it brought the shipping weights of many
Hmm.
containers down to where I didn't have to lift 75 to 100 pounds anymore. I could lift more like 45 pounds.
Hmm.
So those kind of shifts benefit everyone. It's the old snook tables where
Mhm, mhm,
if we get this into the 75 percentile female, that
mhm,
means 99% men can do this safely
mhm.
as well. So we all benefit from
Yeah.
these sort of changes, don't we?
No, no, definitely. Yeah, I agree. That's the thing that when we were doing the usability survey and the aspect of the exoskeletons, for some reason, when we were interviewing female users, they didn't like it because of the chest piece. It was kind of the comfort issue. That's why
Yeah,
some of the designs, it was a thing like one size fits all. It's
right.
not the way that we should see it. That's why we always just see it in a way, and then we need to get feedback from the users to be able to design better. It's
Yeah.
always the human factors aspects of it. But yeah.
It's the old joke, one size fits none.
Exactly. I totally agree. Yes.
Well, I hope you will share with me the link to that magazine, and we'll make sure we include it in the show notes.
Oh yeah, I
Because
love that. Yeah.
that's a wonderful resource. Finally, if our viewers or listeners want to learn more about you and your important work, where might they best find out and perhaps follow you? Are there any places?
They can definitely find me from LinkedIn, and then I'm always active. And whenever they send me a message, I will definitely try my best to respond.
She's the senior researcher at the European Trade Union Institute, and she's focused on ergonomics, biomechanics, and work injury disorders. Dr. Menekse Barim, thank you for being our guest here on the Türkiye Ergonomics podcast.
Thank you so much. This was great.
Oh, it was a real pleasure for me as well. And for the Tamiki podcast, I'm your host, Matt Jeffs, reminding you to work smarter, not harder. See you next time, everybody. Bye bye.